This episode is sponsored by Exactuals, perfecting insurance payments and the data driving them. Jeff, thank you very much for joining. How are you?
Fantastic, thanks. Having a great sunny day up in Vancouver, so no complaints today, but great to be here with you.
Thanks. So, I see that you're already inspiring for an IPO. I love the ticker on your shirt. What's the inspiration? Is that did you already register that, or where are we standing? Because last time I checked, you're in Series A or maybe Series B.
Yeah, we with the lockdown and remote work, we've really been focusing on merch and things and ways to engage different employees, and so we kind of took the Christmas party budget and some of the other things we might have spent on an office and that, and we've tried to reinvest it into fun things like this. So we've got Nike sweaters, and we've got pants and track suits and shirts, and one of the gear we made was this. And it was kind of inspired. We had registered, the ticker. We're sort of way ahead of ourselves, but it was something that the banker said, hey, make sure you go out and reserve the ticker that you want. And so we got that printed on sweaters as just a little bit of fun. And even though our corporate colors are red, we couldn't have a red stock sign. So we had to have the green, little off brand, but it's just a fun way to keep the team engaged and keep looking on that moonshot kind of vision.
Right, that's important, especially for startups. It doesn't matter if you follow the Y Combinator or any one of the big players in Silicon Valley that they have that moonshot and talk about you need to reach high. Maybe you will hit in the middle, right? Still high. So yeah, that's great because Y Combinator will tell you print that shirt. Everyone needs to have a T-shirt. And now we're good. Now you're a startup. Go raise money.
Well, that's it. You get a corporation certificate, and you get track suits or hoodies, and that's it. That's all you need to be a company, right? That's as much as they say in the business book. So the rest of it, the tech and the rest of it, that comes later.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite swag?
My favorite swag. I hate to admit it, but probably the track pants. There's been a lot more. Now that we're kind of in the sort of work from home world, I think those track pants are getting lots of wear. But we've got shoes on the way as sort of the 2-year marker. Sure. So I think the shoes are going to be a real hit with the team once you get to your 2-year anniversary. And so we got a few people crossing that landmark now. And again, it's just fun ways to, if everyone's going to be remote, how do you just kind of pour a little bit of that culture into the team?
So, wow. No, this is amazing because usually we talk about, okay, you join a company, they will send you a box, a nice branded box. Maybe you'll get a keyboard and a shirt or a hoodie. At those times, my favorite actually beside the hoodie are socks. But now you were talking about shoes. That's... and you're going to build it. First year, you're going to get what? What was it? A jacket?
We're going to do jackets at year 1, shoes at year 2, and we're kind of co-founder and I are on year 3 here. So we haven't quite picked what that's going to be, but we figure we got to get ahead of these things. I mean, sometimes we do manage the business and focus on growth and revenue and customers as well, but for the most, those things fall in. I think one of the most important things we do as a business is build a great team. Right. The rest kind of comes if you can attract and retain great people. And so I think these little things, particularly in a work from home, how do we reinvent culture? I think that they go a long way. And we're just trying to find how do we reinvent those types of things to innovate in the culture space as much as we're innovating in the tech and the insurance aspect.
So you're the second Canadian company that joins my podcast. The first one was Brisa. So for the people who are less familiar with the Apollo Insurance, can you give us a little bit of a background? What is Apollo? What you guys are trying to do in this beautiful industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fundamentally, we're an online insurance company. We're actually set up as an MGA, and so we've got a variety of reinsurance and insurance providers that provide capacity to us in different products. We've built the largest selection of online insurance in Canada. And we really take those products to market in 2 ways. One is we've got a portal for insurance brokers to log into, access all of our products, immediate quote online, bind the policy, policy issued, and payment. So it's straight through processing and everything we do. So We've got the broker channel. We've got about 2,000 brokers that work with us in the broker channel. And then we also have an embedded insurance solution where we sort of take all those same products and we plug them into a variety of different atmospheres. Sometimes that's insurance broker websites. Sometimes that's REITs or property management companies, prop tech. And I think that the embedded insurance model is really what's going to be a 10-year horizon for us as a business.
So you're already jumping to, one of my follow-up questions, which will be, of course, what differentiates you from your competitors, especially from, comparing to the incumbents and then to other startups that are in this space?
Yeah, the competitive landscape is a really interesting one. I mean, I think, insurance being one of the largest industries on the planet, Canadians spend about $66 billion a year just on property and casualty. The U.S. market being about 10 times at about $600 billion. Globally, it's $5 trillion. And so when we look at the competitive landscape, I think, you see a lot of splashy IPOs, a lot of excitement around companies like Next and some of the others. But we're really saying, we can go and compete with the incumbent, kind of slow-moving companies that aren't as customer-centric. And so for us, that's our competitive landscape. We think we can build a significant, iconic Canadian business serving the North American market without really worrying about, the other insurtechs as much. I think if we focus on customers, they can build a big business. We can too. I think if there's, there's 4 insurance companies or 10 in the top Fortune 100 list, and none of them have more than 5% market share or somewhere in that range. So it's a tremendous opportunity to build a big business, but not have to worry about what Next is doing to serve small businesses. Anything we can do to help entrepreneurs and small businesses post-COVID, I think it's going to be good for the economy, good for the ecosystem.
Yeah, Next is a very interesting story by themselves. They recently raised another 250, so that put them at their 4 billion valuation. But again, so far they are in the US, you're in Canada. There is a lot of opportunity just in Canada before you look into growing to the US or other markets. On your website, I saw that you're also in London. Is that a city in Canada or London in England?
That must be one of the cities in Canada. And so we do, have an emerging Lloyd's of London kind of supplier relationship, but fundamentally it's Canadian focused. We don't operate in Quebec, but again, the Canadian market being just over 60 billion. It's a funny thing when you look at other industries where someone says, in 2025, the esports industry or something will be, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And yet Canadians or North Americans spend that kind of so regularly on their insurance products. I think it's still an industry that's in its infancy in that innovation life cycle. Tons of opportunity to keep growing. And we want to build a 100-year company. And so when you look at what's this going to look like in 10, 20 years, kind of change your mindset around innovation and the roadmap and what we can achieve.
It's always interesting to talk to a founder that has that vision. It's like, it's not just until the IPO, which you already set up, in your mind and your shirt, you're at the IPO and you're going public. Now you're talking about the 100 years, which is, I don't think that many people think about what will happen in 50 years, 20 years, or even 10 years. Today, how do you work with that? Because today it's so hard to plan 3 or even 5 years in advance.
I think a lot of it is taking the agile methodology and an iterative approach to problem solving. So we don't necessarily have to plan exactly what problem we're going to solve in a year or 2 years. We build a roadmap and iterate, listen to our customers, collect feedback and implement that feedback, but then having a broader kind of 50,000 foot view of, what does this look like in 5 years, in 10 years? And my thesis is that on a 10-year horizon, microinsurance products won't be bought and sold from a website. They'll be included. I think that's a fundamental philosophy that's different than people that are trying to build a website, pay a bunch in marketing to get people to go to it. Whereas for us, we think, it's going to be included. And there's whispers of that with Tesla, including car insurance, even Next and Amazon partnering up. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to make it easy for customers by including insurance in places and experiences they're already going through instead of trying to distract them from their day to get them to engage with an insurance brand.
I completely agree with you. And this is why I left Farmers back in, almost 3 years ago to start Bound, which the whole concept was, how do we embed insurance? And that was an embedded insurance platform everything is about you need to be part of the customer journey, not to pull the customer to your journey. They don't care about insurance. And especially when you build, and I looked at your website, you sell to the yoga instructors, you sell to the small business, or let's not call them gig economy. Well, the self-employed entrepreneurs, from yoga instructors to what else? Do you have one of your favorite risk classes there? They don't really care about insurance.
That's it. I mean, we've got
not
tons and tons of risk classes available. We do, GL, general liability. We do property. We do E&O. We do, a huge spectrum, whether it's tech companies or consultants or yoga instructors, nonprofits, all the way through renters insurance and soon to be home insurance and other personal products as well. And the idea is exactly what you said is, help people, make it easy. Don't distract them from their day, bring them into your funnel. How do we catch them in an existing kind of experience and just do a great job serving that customer? I think we start there, then we're going to be able to, again, iterate and solve that problem. And it's it's rewarding to look at entrepreneurship and say, there's going to be this big upswing, this renaissance of entrepreneurship coming out of the lockdowns and the pandemic. How can we support that? And then there's record number of small business starts. People are starting businesses at their kitchen table right now today. How can we make it easy for them just to get their insurance? And usually 20 employees is about where we cap off. So we actually serve some really good size, really healthy businesses, not just the solopreneur or the yoga instructor.
How do you merge the marketing or the outreach? Because you have SMB, commercial SMB, and you just mentioned the personal lines. How does it work together?
Well, we keep it pretty focused. And again, on the one channel serving brokers, a broker that has a storefront, guess what? They're going to have someone walk in that needs a homeowner's policy and someone walk in that needs a small business policy. So that broker is going to have a diverse mix of customers. So if we can serve the broker, we need that product variety and that breadth. And then when you look at the end customer, again, we're focused on embedding these products. If you're a small business, we're a small business. We're about 50 employees now, and we've raised a little bit of money, but I'm still an entrepreneur. I'm buying as an individual, really. Sure, we're a bit more corporate, but I live somewhere. So if you're going to sell me when it's two of us in a house starting Apollo, if you're going to sell me insurance for my business, you may as well sell me home insurance at the same time because I live somewhere. And so fundamentally, we look at that as a marriage point. Again, focus on the customer, not on the line of business. And I think if you can do that, then it becomes a lot more obvious that these products are a lot complementary to each other. And it's not business insurance over here and personal insurance over here. Like I think a lot of the carriers separated out that way. But we're focused on the customers right in the middle, and they might need a variety of things. Let's serve that customer and focus on their needs, and that's going to be a more holistic approach for their success.
Are you working with other incumbents or insurtechs to bundle those products together?
Definitely on the incumbent side. Because we're not full stack, we want to be more capital light in our model. And so on that side, we work with, a great number of insurance companies. I think we're at 10 or 11 incumbents now. And so we go to them and create and bundle these kind of digital products, create the algorithm, iterate it. And sometimes that gives them added distribution. Sometimes it gives them efficiency. We can start mix and matching products from different companies. And so it's a really interesting journey to go through with the incumbents. We used to have a feature in the platform that would pay them right away. And a few of them were like, no, we can't, we don't want that. Like you have to send us a check. Like we don't want the automatic premium settlements from the transaction. We want you've got to send us. And so we actually were a little bit ahead of ourselves in some of the functionality, but it just shows kind of working with incumbents in that life cycle, how much opportunity I think there is in the industry. And also sometimes it's a cultural phenomenon in those organizations to be really hesitant. We're like, hey, we can settle your premiums in real time. And they're like, no, pay us in 60 days. And to me, as a business person, 60 days worth of cash flow is meaningful. So it's interesting to see those kind of dynamics. But I think the incumbents are, they're on an innovation life cycle. They're working through it. They're going through underwriting system overhauls, whether that's Guidewire, Duck Creek. They're working on how do they empower their staff remotely? How do they move to a remote culture? They've got a lot of problems to solve, but they're big organizations. So it's hard to be nimble. But there's a lot of great work being done in the industry, and I think we're taking a different approach, and where you can be a bit more nimble as a startup, and having a bit of cash behind us certainly helps.
Yeah, I can see the process or the people in the treasury going like, okay, so if we are going to collect those premiums, it's going to cost us 1% or 0.5%, and that's going to affect us in this way. Although you're going to receive the money now, it's going to be more expensive for them to process it, and it's outside of the current process. At the same time, you benefit, you have a float. So you actually can have that money and do something with it, because as you know, as an insurance company, the majority part, well, for the incumbents, the majority of their income comes from the float and the investment. Now, that's impressive. And you know, I should actually give love a little bit to our main sponsor, Exactuals, because their solution is actually providing that complex payments, if it's commissions or how you call that, royalties, and you know, fragments of payments to all kinds of parties. The origin actually comes from the music industry. So you know, every time you sell a CD or download a track, whatever that may be, and there is royalty, now you need to figure out how the hell you're going to pay for all of those folks. It's a very interesting solution that is so needed if it was in the music industry and of course in the insurance industry. So that was enough with that. That's love. Really cool. Let's go back to talk with you.
It's really interesting though, because there's so many problems to be solved in the industry, whether it's telematics over here, there's the whole claims world, there's, you know, straight through processing and in personal and commercial lines, there's how do you split payments just regardless of the product that you're selling. So I think it's an interesting time because there's so many problems to be solved. There's going to be a lot of great companies they're going to get out and try and solve them.
So a little bit history of the company. You launched in April 19. You raised recently. You raised, what was it? 13 million.
Well, it was just before Christmas last year. I think it was the 23rd of December. The kind of final close came through, and so you know, everyone was working hard right before the holiday there to get it across the line. So it was great process. But yeah, we launched in April of 2019. You know, my background is from the insurance industry, so I spent the better part of the last decade as vice president digital strategy, vice president marketing and e-commerce at a traditional brokerage group. You know, implementing CRMs, implementing digital lead flows, and you know, we became very good at building kind of template products, driving lead flows. But inevitably, there was just a team of people kind of in the other room who had to service those leads the traditional way. And we really realized that building the technology for online quote, bind online, pay online, that was what was going to allow us to convert the volume much more effectively. So that was the thesis behind starting Apollo. We spun out and we've been able to raise about 16 million so far. To kind of, you know, fulfill the vision. I mean, being in Vancouver, we used to be on an airplane to Toronto and all over the place, you know, 5 times a month and kind of living out of a suitcase. So the world in that sense has changed, but it's been great building the company in the Canadian landscape. And I think lots of opportunity to expand into the US as well.
How did the lockdown affected your business? Because you were talking about the vision, traveling, you know, Toronto, Vancouver, going back and forth. I know that. I used to live on American Airlines for a while. How did your life change, especially for Apollo and your plan?
Without a doubt, I think it's changed, you know, operationally in a lot of sense, it hasn't changed at all because we were already set up remote. We had an office because I think the culture in an office is really important, but we were already set up. Everyone was issued a laptop. Nobody had desktop computers. If you wanted to work remotely from, you know, Costa Rica or Toronto or some airplane or your backyard, you could do that. So we already set ourselves up that way. So when the lockdown happened a year ago, it was interesting because all the other companies had to kind of scramble to learn how to do that. But we had been on Zoom and Slack and that for, you know, since we started the company. So we were a couple of years into that. Where I think it really has changed for us, one is that it's so much more efficient. You know, we get to meet and we get to sort of have this conversation, but I used to jump on an airplane, you know, fly halfway across the continent, rent a car, drive another 2 hours and go buy someone lunch to try and sort out a way to do a deal or to implement some piece of technology or, you know, solve a problem for them. And now that might be 30 minutes on a Zoom call. And so in that sense, you know, the efficiencies for our business have really picked up. It's tough because you don't get to build as strong relationships, not being there in person. But I think where another area that's changed is culturally, we've been able to really hire and build a team now from such a diverse pool. So we have people all across Canada. And so, if you want to come to the office, we have opportunities to do that. But for the most part, now our talent pool has expanded dramatically. And so now we can really hire the best person for the job, regardless of location. I think that's going to be a competitive advantage for us and for companies that get really good at working remotely, building remote cultures, onboarding training, and then really getting people up to speed in a remote world. I think there's a lot of great talent. We've been fortunate in Vancouver to have some great tech companies that have exited. Plenty official for 400 million. We have Hootsuite's a great tech company here. There's a lot of big companies that are setting up shop here. We've got Amazon and Microsoft. We kind of find that challenging sometimes because now we have to compete for talent with those bigger companies. But I think we've been fortunate to have some tech exits that recycle that talent and that experience and that capital back into the ecosystem. So Vancouver's got a strong talent pool, lots of capital, lots of great investors, lots of people that made money in different segments, real estate, cannabis, or otherwise, that want to reinvest into emerging tech trends. And so at least from a Vancouver perspective, and then Toronto, it's sort of the only proper big city in Canada from that perspective. So I think you have a lot of innovation, a lot of investment in talent there. We've got some great universities in Canada churning out top talent. So I think the talent pool overall, although it's a really big country with a really little small population, we're able to really, I think, punch above our weight when it comes to being able to bring in great talent. Sure, we lose some to the Valley, but I also think look at the insurtechs. You've got Columbus, Ohio. You've got Austin. You've got all these emerging kind of sectors and segments. And I don't know that, if Hartford is the mecca of insurance in the States, then it's a long way away from the Valley. We'll see, but I think there's a lot of talent in a lot of places. And for us, it's just, can we get people that match our values and onboard them and get them building velocity in the team quickly?
Yeah, with all my love to Hartford, Connecticut, it used to be a core back in the day, and they are trying to figure out how to become that again. That will be the best definition. There are many good people that are working at Hartford who are trying to figure out in the past 2-3 years, maybe even 4, how they can pump new blood into that area, and working with the government and providing grants and all the stuff to get new blood and get that rolling. But going back to you collected 3 great partners and investors, Gravitas, Trisura, and of course, Liberty Mutual. How are you going to leverage them as strategic investors?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. So we've got Trisura Group, who's a TSX listed company. TSU is their ticker. What a 1.2 billion market cap, and they've been a great supporter of ours for product, as well as an investor of ours. And they also they participate on our board. So I think that's been great for us, just as that strategic alignment that I think that the industry is looking for more stories of collaboration like that, where you can invest some capital, we can underwrite good, profitable business, return that capital back to them in profitable premiums, and then kind of continue with that cycle as a supplier relationship. And so with Liberty Mutual, who I think is the 6th biggest insurance company in the world, they've come on recently as an investor. I think we'll replicate the model with them. Our focus is really underwriting really good business and proving that the algorithms we create can actually price and underwrite good loss ratios. And I think that's sort of a differentiator from some of the other companies that loss ratios are a challenge for. One of our key suppliers, we had a 4% loss ratio with. So we're underwriting really, really good, profitable, small business insurance for this company. And that allows us to say, great, well, we wrote this much premium with you. Will you make an investment so we can keep accelerating? And it's a bit of a virtuous cycle. And I think we'll find more insurance company partners alongside the institutional investors and high net worth that we have that will be able to support us to keep growing and scaling the business. Well, I think it's an interesting thing looking at a Canadian company going to enter the U.S. market. And where I think we have this strength is in the embedded model. We have about 150 embedded deployments now and everything's straight through processing, both on the personal line side and the small business side. And I think as we keep working with, whether it's property tech who wants to embed renters insurance, or it's small business, networks or apps so we can embed these products, that really brings us, for the low cost of acquisition, to the North American market. And so I think our go-to-market has really worked well, but it allows us as a Vancouver company to access, the entire North American market without having to put boots on the ground from a sales team perspective as you would in the traditional way. And so, technology enables that, but there's a lot of different ways to innovate that I think we're sort of building a unique model to deploy our products out to both Canada and the US and the overall ecosystem.
So should I assume that you're planning to enter the US?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think it's definitely on our 2020 run horizon, is to enter the US market. And, again, there's a lot of opportunities to serve small businesses and individuals, make it easy to access insurance products. I think there's some companies doing a great job of that. And I think we can sort of, replicate that or find our own way to create those successes and, build a great company as a result of it. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's definitely been their ups and downs, but it's a fun thing to be with a group of people kind of on the adventure of building a new organization and building a new company. And, doing it remotely is a little bit of a different challenge. I always thought it was going to be the bunch of people in the office and kind of all the rah-rah that comes with that. But, we're on our own journey and hopefully, the lockdowns and whatnot kind of ease, both for our small business customers, but also for us to be able to get together and start to kind of recreate what we might have thought the experience would have been 5 years ago when we started looking over the hill and saying we should go start a company and build this.
That's great. So before we conclude our conversation, do you have, and that's before I usually ask a recommendation of a book and a life hack, we'll get to that. But before that, do you have any tips, or let's call it the hurdles that you passed as a founder of an insurer?
Yeah, I think the biggest one of just founding a tech company or founding a startup, is a lot of times people look at the press releases and they get excited about those. We've been very, very fortunate to have great investors support us, but the deal structure is never in the press release, right? So we've been fortunate to have really founder-friendly deal structures and work with some great investors that want to empower entrepreneurs. But I'd say to any founder, anyone that's looking to start, and all the shine of raising venture capital or raising capital from investors, the deal terms are always something to look out for. And I think to really pick your investors wisely in terms of them being partners and long-term partners, I think is something that we've definitely learned as we've met with a whole bunch of different people. And I think it's a really good thing for a founder to really evaluate that when they're raising money. It's not just about the press release. It's, okay, well, what was it? Pref shares and what were all the fine print things that they don't really teach you in business school. No one really talks about that when they say, hey, go pitch the value or go pitch whoever. And so we've been very fortunate, but I think it's something for founders, if anyone wants to get into it, for them to really understand and think a lot about when they want to go raise capital.
So what's next for you? What are you looking for? Or if someone is listening, are you looking for more capacity, more people? How can we, the royal we, or the listeners, can be of a service to you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there's always opportunity for more capacity. We build products very rapidly. And so if there's an insurance company listing that wants to distribute products, in the North American market from the P&C side, small business or individual, it'd be great to work with them, be able to serve customers better in a digital way. Always looking for talent and employees that want to, embody the core values, work hard and deliver, take on a bit of an adventure, be able to have candor and sort of bring that top talent to the organization. And of course, buy stock today. And if there's any chance that there's investors listening, always an opportunity to look and say, well, how are we going to continue to accelerate this business into our Series B and eventually into, I think building a public company is the way to build a 100-year-old business. There's a lot of shine around private as well, but without the regulatory. But I think, to build a public company is a way to build something that lasts forever. And insurance is definitely an industry where you can build that longevity. So I think that'll be the route one day. But until then, if any investors that are listening, always an opportunity to chat and, teach them more about the business and how I might be able to partner.
So one last question there. So what's the story of the boats that you have behind you?
Well, back when we used to be able to travel, I would go and collect these wooden ships or ships in a bottle from, a variety of places so Colombia or Costa Rica, Mexico, different places that I would visit. So I've got a kind of a collection from my travel. I used to be a travel writer for a few major newspapers in Canada, sort of before Apollo. And so that was always a passion of mine. I always loved traveling. It's a really stupid thing to try and bring back in a suitcase. Admittedly, it's either it's glass or it's the most kind of fragile thing. But for some reason, I just got kind of hooked. I love kind of model ships. And so it was something that was always interesting to me, and kind of something cool you can bring back from a place that brings a lot of character from that place with it.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out. So I've been traveling a lot throughout my career. So there was at the beginning, I used to just grab glass shots, and then I realized, yeah, I'm in my 30s. It's cute, but it's damn stupid. Then as we progressed, I don't know if we can see all kinds of small art and stuff like that. And there was a point that it's like, yeah, that's a little bit too much, but still trying to pick up all kinds of small arts and crafts from different locations. But great. So, I promise, last question, and that's a question that I ask everyone. Can you give us a recommendation of a book, a life hack, or something that you picked up during lockdown?
Yeah, I'll definitely, I'll take the book one. We give everybody in the company a copy of Good to Great by Jim Collins, and I think the lessons in that book, we almost like read them out when it's like, how are we going to solve a problem? All right, let's look at, can we have candor? Can we have vigorous debate? As a new group of people, how do you transform that? So Good to Great is something I think any entrepreneur needs to read to really be able to embody those principles. I think there's something about that book that's special as a bit of a playbook to go and solve problems with. So that's my recommendation.
Fantastic. Jeff, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate the time. It's been great.
Thank you so much for the time. It's been a lot of fun. Enjoyed it.